My name is Nathaniel Harrison, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everyone you trust. This is the story of how 20 years of marriage crumbled in a single moment, and how revenge became the most expensive lesson I ever taught. It started on a cold November evening in Chicago. I had just returned from a client meeting that ran late, my briefcase heavy with financial portfolios and investment plans. Our house in Oak Park was quiet, too quiet. Rachel should have been home from her marketing job at Sterling and Associates by now, but her car wasn't in the driveway. I poured myself a whiskey and settled into my home office to review the Morrison account, a potential $2 million retirement planning contract that could set my practice up for years. As I spread the documents across my mahogany desk, something caught my eye on the kitchen counter through the doorway. A phone. Not Rachel's usual iPhone, but a cheap Android device I'd never seen before. The screen lit up with a message notification. The sender's name made my blood freeze. Kevin Redhart. Kevin Sanders. My business partner of 5 years. The man who had stood as my best man when Rachel and I renewed our vows on our 15th anniversary. The man who came to our house every Sunday for dinner, who knew our children's middle names, who I trusted with my most confidential client information. The message was simple but devastating. Can't wait for tomorrow night, beautiful. Same place, same time. I set my whiskey down with trembling hands. 20 years of marriage, 5 years of business partnership, and a lifetime of trust collapsed in that single moment. But instead of confronting them immediately, something inside me, the analytical mind that had built my financial consulting practice from nothing, took control. I needed proof. I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. The next morning I acted normal. I kissed Rachel goodbye, told her I loved her, and watched her drive away in her silver Lexus. Then I called my assistant Jennifer and told her I'd be working from home for the rest of the week. I had research to do. I started with the phone. While Rachel was at work, I carefully examined the device. It was registered under a fake name, Mary Johnson, but the bill was being paid from a joint credit card account I didn't recognize. A credit card that, according to my investigation, had been opened 6 months ago using our joint tax returns. But that was just the beginning. Over the next week, I became someone I never thought I could be, a detective investigating his own life. I installed tracking software on our shared computer. I began paying attention to every detail of Rachel's behavior, every inconsistency in her stories, every new piece of clothing I hadn't seen before. The pattern emerged quickly. Every Tuesday and Friday, Rachel claimed to be working late on the Henderson campaign, a major client that Sterling and Associates was supposedly courting. But when I called the agency posing as a potential vendor, I learned there was no Henderson campaign. There never had been. Those Tuesday and Friday nights, according to the GPS data from her phone, Rachel was at the Marriott downtown. The same hotel where Kevin had mentioned hosting clients in our business meetings. The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. But the betrayal ran deeper than adultery. On Thursday evening, as I pretended to work in my study, I overheard Rachel on the phone. She was in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones, but my home's acoustics carried every word to my office. Yes, Kevin, he mentioned the Patterson portfolio today. They're looking at a 7-figure investment in renewable energy stocks. Boss. No, he doesn't suspect anything. He still thinks you're his trusted partner. My hands clenched around my pen so tightly it snapped. She was feeding Kevin information about my clients. Not just cheating on me but actively sabotaging my business. Every confidential detail I shared with her over dinner, every private financial plan I discussed while reviewing my cases at home, she was passing it all to Kevin. I realized then that Kevin's recent suggestions about expanding our client base and aggressive acquisition strategies weren't partnership ideas. They were intelligence gathering. He was preparing to steal my practice from the inside. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Rachel slept peacefully beside me. How long had this been going on? How many of my clients had Kevin already approached? How much damage had already been done to my reputation, my business, my life? By morning I had made a decision. If Rachel and Kevin wanted to play games with deception and betrayal, I would teach them the rules. I started with reconnaissance. Over the next 2 weeks, I documented everything. I hired Marcus Chin, a private investigator recommended by my divorce attorney, yes, I had already consulted one, to photograph their meetings. I installed keylogger software on our home computer to capture every email, every message, every digital breadcrumb of their conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. Kevin wasn't just planning to steal my clients, he was creating an entire competing firm called Midwest Financial Solutions. He had already secured office space downtown, hired 2 junior analysts, and was preparing to launch in January. Their business plan, which I found in Rachel's personal email, included detailed profiles of my top 20 clients and strategies for convincing them to transfer their accounts. But the most damaging evidence was a series of emails between Rachel and Kevin discussing something called Operation Takeover. They were planning to approach my clients with claims that I was having financial difficulties, that my firm was unstable, that they should move their money to Kevin's new company for their own protection. It was sophisticated, calculated, and utterly ruthless. They were going to destroy my professional reputation while stealing everything I had built. That's when I decided to fight fire with fire. I began crafting my counterattack with the same precision I use for complex financial planning. If Kevin wanted to steal my business using inside information, I would give him information that would destroy him instead. First, I created William Thompson. Thompson was a fictional oil executive from Houston, a widower in his 70s looking to diversify his portfolio with a massive investment in clean technology. I registered a shell company called Thompson Energy Holdings, created a professional website, and established a bank account with enough money to seem legitimate. I even hired an actor through a talent agency to make phone calls as Thompson, complete with a convincing Texas accent and oil industry knowledge I had researched for weeks. The hook was a revolutionary water purification technology supposedly developed by a startup in Silicon Valley. According to the fictional narrative I created, this technology could process contaminated water at 1/10 the cost of existing methods, with applications in disaster relief, developing nations, and industrial cleanup. Thompson was looking to invest $20 million as the primary funding partner, with the potential for returns of over 500% within 3 years. It was exactly the kind of opportunity that would drive Kevin crazy with greed. Now I needed to dangle the bait. I began leaving documents about the Thompson account around the house. Feasibility studies, financial projections, correspondence between myself and the fictional client. I made sure Rachel could accidentally discover them while she was snooping through my work materials. I also started taking fake phone calls with Thompson when Rachel was within earshot, discussing investment timelines and profit margins in excited whispers. I played the part of a financial advisor who had stumbled upon the deal of a lifetime but needed to maintain absolute confidentiality. The trap was set. Now I waited. Rachel took the bait within days. She began asking casual questions about my work, showing more interest in my clients than she had in years. "How was your day, honey?" she'd ask over dinner. "Any interesting new accounts?" "Oh, just the usual retirement planning and portfolio management," I'd reply, then pause dramatically. "Actually, there is one potential client that could be really significant, but I can't discuss the details. Confidentiality agreements, you know." I watched her eyes light up with curiosity and greed. She pressed for more information, but I played hard to get, which only made her more desperate to learn Thompson's secrets. Meanwhile, Marcus was documenting every meeting between Rachel and Kevin. The photographs showed them at restaurants, hotels, and coffee shops, exchanging documents and having intense conversations. In one particularly damning photo, Kevin was reviewing what appeared to be client files while Rachel leaned across the table, pointing at specific sections. 2 weeks after I began the Thompson operation, Kevin called me. "Hey Nathaniel, want to grab lunch? I have some business ideas to discuss." We met at Giovanni's, an upscale Italian restaurant where we had celebrated our first major joint contract 5 years earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. Kevin was nervous, fidgeting with his napkin and making small talk about the weather. Finally he got to the point. "I've been thinking about expanding our services," he said, leaning forward conspiratorially. "Maybe branching out into alternative energy investments, clean technology, that sort of thing. There's a lot of money moving into environmental solutions these days." I nodded thoughtfully, taking a sip of wine. Interesting timing. Why the sudden interest in clean tech? "Just staying ahead of market trends," he replied, but his eyes betrayed his eagerness. "Actually, I've been wondering if you've come across any opportunities in that space. Any clients looking to diversify into emerging technologies?" There it was. The question Rachel had obviously prompted him to ask. I pretended to consider his words carefully. "Well, there is one potential situation. But it's extremely confidential. The client is very particular about information security." Kevin's eyes lit up. "Of course. You know you can trust me, Nathaniel. We've been partners for 5 years. Partners. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. "Let me think about it," I said. "If I do decide to bring you in, it would have to be as a full partner in the deal." The client is looking at a $20 million investment with potential returns that could set us both up for life. I watched Kevin's face as greed overcame caution. His pupils dilated, his breathing quickened, and he leaned back in his chair as if he'd been physically struck. 20 million? He whispered. Potentially more, I said, then changed the subject to baseball, leaving him hungry for details. Over the next month, I fed Kevin carefully crafted information about the Thompson deal. I showed him fabricated financial projections, fake technical specifications for the water purification technology, and forged letters of intent from the fictional Silicon Valley startup. Every document was designed to paint a picture of an incredible investment opportunity that required significant upfront capital. Money that would need to be committed before the client would reveal the full details of the technology. Kevin was hooked completely. He began liquidating his personal investments, took out loans against his house, and even borrowed money from his elderly parents. By December he had raised nearly $600,000, every penny he could access. Meanwhile, I was gathering the final pieces of evidence I would need for the divorce proceedings. Marcus had photographed Rachel and Kevin in compromising positions at the Marriott. I had recordings of phone conversations where they discussed stealing my clients. I had copies of emails detailing their plans to destroy my business. But I wanted one final piece of justice. On December 15th, I met Kevin at his lawyer's office to sign the partnership agreement for the Thompson investment. The document was legally binding and transferred his $600,000 into an escrow account controlled by Thompson Energy Holdings, which, unknown to Kevin, was entirely owned by me. As Kevin signed his name on the dotted line, his hand trembling with excitement, I felt no satisfaction. Only a cold, hollow sense of justice being served. "This is it, Nathaniel," he said, shaking my hand. "This deal is going to change everything for both of us." He had no idea how right he was. The next day William Thompson vanished. His phone number was disconnected, his email bounced back, and his company website displayed a message about temporary technical difficulties. Kevin's calls to me became increasingly frantic as he realized he couldn't reach our supposed client. That evening, I was waiting for Rachel when she came home from another late meeting. She found me sitting in our living room, surrounded by printed emails, photographs, and financial documents. The evidence of her betrayal was spread across every surface like a forensic crime scene. "Sit down, Rachel," I said calmly. "We need to discuss your career change." She froze in the doorway, her face cycling through confusion, fear, and finally resignation. "Nathaniel, I can explain." "Can you?" I held up a photograph of her and Kevin kissing outside the Marriott. "Can you explain why my wife of 20 years has been feeding confidential client information to my business partner so he can steal my practice?" The color drained from her face. She sat down heavily on the couch, her purse falling to the floor. "It's not what you think," she whispered. I laughed bitterly. "Really? Because I think my wife has been having an affair with my business partner while simultaneously committing industrial espionage that could have destroyed my career and cost my clients millions of dollars. Am I wrong?" She couldn't meet my eyes. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to make sure Kevin invested his life savings in a fictional water purification company that will never exist." Rachel's head snapped up. "What?" I explained the Thompson operation in detail, watching as the full scope of my revenge became clear to her. Kevin wasn't just losing a mistress, he was losing everything he owned. "You destroyed him," she whispered. "He destroyed himself," I replied. "I just provided the shovel." The next morning I filed for divorce. My attorney, Margaret Sinclair, had reviewed all the evidence and assured me the case would be straightforward. With documented proof of adultery and corporate espionage, Rachel would be lucky to get minimal alimony, let alone half of our assets. Kevin called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. His voicemails progressed from confused to angry to desperate to pleading. By the final message he was crying. When I finally called him back 3 days later, he was broken. "Nathaniel, please," he begged. "I've lost everything. My house, my savings, my parents' money. You have to help me recover the Thompson investment." "There is no Thompson investment, Kevin. There never was." Silence on the other end of the line. "You knew?" he finally whispered. "I've known about everything for months. The affair, the business plan, the client theft, all of it. But you were my partner. My friend. Partners don't steal from each other, Kevin. Friends don't sleep with each other's wives." The line went dead. A week later, Kevin declared bankruptcy. The legal documents showed he owed nearly $800,000 in various loans and credit lines, all secured against assets he no longer owned. His planned financial firm never opened. His office lease was canceled. His hired analysts found other jobs. Rachel moved in with her sister while the divorce proceedings continued. She was fired from Sterling and Associates when her employers learned about her involvement in corporate espionage. Her reputation in Chicago's marketing community was destroyed. The divorce was finalized in March. Despite her attempts to claim half of our assets, the evidence of her betrayal severely limited her settlement. She received a modest lump sum and no ongoing alimony. The house, my business, and our joint investments remained entirely mine. But winning didn't feel like victory. I sold my practice to a larger firm in April and moved to Seattle. Starting over at 45 years old wasn't easy, but I needed distance from the wreckage of my old life. I opened a small financial planning office in Capitol Hill, focusing on retirement planning for middle-class families rather than wealthy investors. The work was satisfying in a way my previous practice never was. My clients weren't looking for aggressive returns or complex investment strategies. They just wanted security for their golden years. They trusted me with their modest savings, their simple dreams of comfortable retirement, their hopes that their children would be financially stable. It was honest work with honest people. After months of deception and manipulation, honesty felt revolutionary. 6 months after moving to Seattle, I received a letter forwarded from my old Chicago address. It was from Kevin, postmarked from Jacksonville, Florida. Nathaniel, it read, "I know I have no right to contact you, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for the affair, though that was inexcusable, but for betraying your trust as a partner and friend. You gave me opportunities one never could have earned on my own, and I repaid your generosity with theft and deception. I understand now why you did what you did. I probably would have done the same thing in your position. I'm working as an insurance salesman now, trying to rebuild my life from nothing. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I regret everything. I hope you find peace. Kevin." I read the letter twice, then threw it away. Rachel tried to contact me several times during that first year in Seattle. Phone calls, emails, even a handwritten letter expressing regret and asking for another chance. I never responded. What was the point? Trust, once shattered completely, can never be fully repaired. Like a broken bone that heals crooked, it might become functional again, but it will always be weak at the fracture point. I've been in Seattle for 3 years now. My practice is small but successful. I have a few close friends, though I'm more cautious about trust than I used to be. I date occasionally, but I'm honest with women about my past and my reservations about serious relationships. People sometimes ask if I regret what I did to Kevin and Rachel. If I think my revenge was too harsh, too calculated, too cruel. But I always ask them the same question in return. What would you do if the two people you trusted most in the world conspired to destroy everything you had built? How would you react if your spouse and business partner planned to steal your clients, ruin your reputation, and leave you with nothing? Betrayal isn't a mistake, it's a choice. Rachel chose to have an affair. Kevin chose to steal from our partnership. Together, they chose to destroy my business and my personal life for their own benefit. I simply chose to destroy them first. The hardest part isn't the revenge. It's living with the knowledge that people you love are capable of such calculated cruelty. It's understanding that the person who shared your bed for 20 years was simultaneously plotting your professional destruction. It's accepting that your business partner was never actually your partner at all, just a competitor gathering intelligence while pretending to be your friend. Some nights I still wake up angry. Not at what they did, but at my own naivety. How many signs did I ignore? How many red flags did I rationalize away? How long was I the fool in my own life story? But most mornings I wake up grateful. Grateful that I discovered the truth before they could complete their plan. Grateful that I had the skills and resources to fight back. Grateful that I learned who they really were before they could cause even more damage. The truth is always better than the most beautiful lie, even when the truth destroys everything you thought you knew about your life. These days, I tell my clients that financial security isn't just about having enough money for retirement. It's about being able to trust the people who handle your money. Trust is the most valuable currency in any relationship, whether personal or professional. Once it's spent, you can never get it back. And that's a lesson worth $20 million of anyone's money. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.